Hey everybody, Charles Calhoun, aka the Shade Tree Pro. I'm gonna do something here, something that and at first I was not going to do until my daughter said something to me, and I wrote about it on this gentleman Michael Blake's athletic and fitness thing there, and I said something, but my daughter said something. Sometime it ain't personal, ain't business. Although there's been some personal things between me and this gentleman, but right now this is not about personal. This is about business because there are people out there, especially black sisters and brothers, that we're not getting it in this game the way we should. And as I continue to say, I have a big belief that it's the information more than anything. As I said before, when I say top down, my swing system and philosophy top down, there it is a complete system, books and all. Now, and you can, like I said, with many other teachers out there, I don't know what their philosophy is. They say that these movements, they talk about plenty of movements, but what is the true philosophy? Is it broken down? Is it made? As I said, if you walk up and say, let me get a hamburger with lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, whatever, your order is there. Well, I created top down for whatever you want is an order. Now, on this one he just recently put up, he made the conversation, and the first thing I'm going to talk about is this thing right here, the knee behind the ball. As I said, the knee is a hinge joint. I didn't make that up. Science made up, and all it does is break back and forth. That's the whole purpose of it. I even talk about it when I talk about movements, in a sense, as I define the wrist, the elbows, and all these things, that it is. And the movement of the ankle, the knee in itself, is that when we make a move, the hip socket rotates and it moves, because the knee does have a little slightness to be able to move from side to side, simply because in between the thigh bone, which would be the distal end of the thigh bone and the proximal end of the tibia bone, there is no connection like it is with the elbow joint. Just in between it is, people who've had knee injuries, is the meniscus. So there is a little bit of play there. But for the overall understanding, the knee is a hinge joint. Now, the conversation was that, and I've said this before, and I said, and because then sometime when someone says something, that's why it's always good to ask questions. What do you mean? What is your understanding of that? Well, the beauty of that is that the ball becomes too much of the focus, in a sense. So if I took this ball right here, because I said that my focus is to never thinking about trying to get my knee behind the ball, which is something they talk about traditionally in golf, and and I don't agree with, and that's okay. It's all right for me to agree with that. And here's why I don't. If I move this ball back this way, and I'm set up here. Now, here's my normal ball position. If I move this ball back here and I try to get my knee back behind the ball, then I'm going to be all over the place. So I'm not trying to get my knee behind the ball. What I am trying to do is get my body to react wherever this breaks is breaking. I'm not using the ball as a reference point. Remember, I told you all in a video, or if y'all ever seen in my video, I said if I close my eyes and I reach down and touch that ball, if it's in the same spot, I can get it every time. But the moment that I move that ball and I reach down and try to touch it, I'll never be able to touch it because it is an inanimate object and my body don't connect to it. But I can always touch my knee, this knee, I can touch my head, I can touch my nose with my eyes closed. You all who have ever followed me, you've watched my video where I've actually said, or seen me hitting with it blindfolded. So the whole purpose, in a sense, is that when we're developing a swing, I did a video on my YouTube where I talked about when we first learned how to build a golf swing, instead of trying to find all these positions, we learned how to move the golf swing from one side of the body to the other, develop the grip, and allow the club face to learn how to collect the ball. And once it collected the ball, then we start making a grip to be able to grip it, to get the club face where we want. Because first we see it, we plan it, we move it, we make the adjustments necessary, and we try our best to continuously repeat it, to be able to hit the ball to a defined target, me personally, one side of the flagstick or the other. And so, and then another part of that, so that's my whole purpose there. And what I'm doing is I am trying to make the actions, the movements of the body conducive, especially with my top down. So when the scap comes up, the body is able to move and react without focusing on, because this is what happened to some people. They may be in a great position right here with the say their knee, because there are people who play with their knee out like this. They may be in a great position there, and someone comes along and say, "Oh, you're not," and they're hitting it good. And then someone comes along and say, "Well, you're not getting your knee behind the ball." Well, I would always say if they played the ball up there, then the knee's behind it. So the knee behind the ball is a relative term. That's it's not no absolute necessary fundamental. My thing is not focusing on whether my knee is behind the ball so much as focusing, making sure that I get that when I scap up, that I get that good set of the upper body, the middle body, and the lower body. Now that leads into something else that traditionally, now I never said and never will say that nobody thought about swinging a club from the, top down. There's plenty of people talked about. Matter of fact, in the day, that's what they used to talk about. But what I am saying is nobody sat there and defined it as a philosophy in a comparison to the, starting with the hips from the ground up in comparison to started with the shoulder girdle with the scapula coming down. Now, that's not been written, and that is not somewhere out there in books as a separate entity, as a philosophy. That is not written anywhere. And far as I know and I can understand, I have not seen anybody that has written it to where it's broken down like that. Personally, I have not seen anybody who's taking the upper body, which is the shoulder girdle, the middle body, which is from the first rib all the way to the distal ends of the thigh bones, and the lower body, which is anything below the knees, in science is considered the legs. I've never seen them create those as separate entities. I've never seen anybody write about that, and I talk about that. Now they've got even this Taco Tuesday thing where they're sticking under their arms and trying to stop it, where even the great Harvey Pinnock said that even the Scottish teachers did not teach you that. Now, if you understand what the difference between the upper body, the middle body, and lower body, and understanding that the shoulder girdle is a separate entity from the body cavity, then all of a sudden now you'll start understanding that the way the shoulder girdle moves, in a sense, is that it is what moves. The arms are superior, that makes the rest of the body react. As I've said many times before, is that I can raise my arms to the cows come home. I could turn my hips to everything happens, in a sense, and then all of a sudden, no matter what I do, these arms are not coming down. It is anatomically impossible. And that's why I said sometimes it's common sense over science. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to have any science to tell me this. This is common sense because I'm doing it and they're not coming down. But the moment I drop my arms, then all of a sudden everything inside of my body is reacting. And then once a guy once told me, said, shade tree, Charles was at the time, he said, "Charles, if it rounds, it rolls." So basically, when I drop this from the top, dropping this pressure from the top, then all of a sudden, anything, your ball and socket joints in your hips, the ball and socket joints in your shoulders, all of those things are naturally going to react. Now, there was also something the day before that I saw that I am just going to go ahead and add to it. It was this concept where I said that, that I keep the hands behind the strike, and I do not back away from that, because here's why. Because Jack Nicklaus, when they asked Jack, when do you start your downswing or release the club? He said, I started, from the top. I started letting it go, in essence. Well, here's this. The simplest motion in sports in itself is a linear motion that makes this club go backwards, just like this. This is how it goes, just like this. And if the linear motion is like that, then that means that if you take this butt end of the club, right here, this butt end of the club, and then you take this end of the club, because this is how the club is designed, that the only way that I can strike is that this has to go back and this has to go forward. Now that leads into my hands. When I strike, my hands are going back as the club is going forward. Now, what gets people is that when they learn to turn the hips, then what they're doing is doing this dragging motion, dragging the handle, which dragging the hips. And to do that, you must keep the hands dragging past the club face. I mean, excuse me, past the ball or through it. Well, with top down, the way that I release it, I don't have to do that. I just do it naturally. And here's another reason why. It's all athletic. If someone were to throw me a ball, and they throw me a ball, I'm not going to catch the ball like this, correct? If I'm standing sideways, I'm not going to catch the ball like this with this hand if I'm standing sideways. If I'm standing like this, then I'm going to catch the ball like this, and I'm going to catch the other one like this, something I talk about rolling the shaft. So if I'm sitting here and my hands are going like this, then I'm collecting the ball. I'm not thinking about trying to get them past it. I'm collecting the ball, where I come down here, I throw the club face through, boom. And then so my hands will naturally do exactly what they're supposed to do if I was just naturally standing here to catch something. I'm not trying to do it like this, which means people are teaching people to release it over here, which another good example of that is that when the club, if I was standing facing a clock, 12 would be up here, 6 would be down here. So the ball is at 6. So why would I want my hands to go this way? In essence, when the club is that way, which makes my hands go this way, that when I go to collect something, I'm not trying to get my arms out here to collect it. I'm actually pulling my arm back so my hand can go forward and get it. That's just like that same pendulum motion that I just talked about right there, all the same. So it doesn't take a lot of science in a sense to understand common sense. But what it does, it takes a lot of time, expert, and experience to be able to know how to put these things in application, which is what I've done there. So like I said, my daughter, very, very smart young lady, as she said, business is business and it ain't personal. And you're right, it's where I'm gonna step out for my brothers and sisters out there. If that's who y'all listen to, then it's my job or whatever is to provide the information to, and I'm not trying to convince. What I'm trying to do is educate you all on what I know. And I showed you that regardless of the ball, it ain't got nothing to do with it. And that's the reason that I said I don't never think about trying to get my knee behind the ball, because I don't use the ball as a reference point for my lower body, because the club, the shoulder girdle, it'll take care of that. I'm not worried about that. And then most importantly, as I said before, in a sense, the only thing that matters is a true releasing of the golf club. Most people lose their swing when they release it. When they lose their release, they lose their swing. So that is my answer based on, what's being said in that regard. And I hope I cleared up a lot of those answers for you, because like I said, it's common sense versus science, and common sense is going to win just about every single time. And it has nothing about this creating a new kinetic chain. I'm giving you the chain that God created. Shoulder girdle, upper body, middle body, lower body, to create that good flowing swing. Charles Calhoun, aka the Shade Tree Pro, here at the beautiful Grand Vista Marriott in Orlando, Florida, and always good golfing.